Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're all well. My name is Lorraine. I am the ERF Garda Vetting Manager and Membership Manager here. I'm standing in for Anna today, and I am delighted to welcome you to our third episode in the ERF AI Brunch with Neil Curry from TargetRecruit. Fantastic sessions. If anybody has missed the first two, drop us an email here and we can send you the link, and they're also on our YouTube channel. Today, Neil is going to be speaking about streamlining operations. So I'm going to hand it over to Neil. Please, at the end of the session, any questions that you have, you're more than welcome to pop them into the chat, into the Q&A, and I hope you enjoy session 3. Over to you, Neil.
Great. Thank you, Lorraine. And good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining. If you were on the last two webinars, welcome again. For those of you who are new, we are going to spend about half an hour running through some AI tools. And as Lorraine mentioned, it's going to be around the streamlining operations on this particular conversation. So without further ado, let's get into it. Any questions, pop them in the chat, drop me an email. This is a 4-part webinar. So we have covered front office, the candidate experience. We're looking at operations today. And then next week will be the last one. And this is the practical steps of where to get started with AI. So not so much a recommendation on software, but more around what to actually do if you are looking to roll AI across your organization, which I know is a bit of a minefield. So hopefully that'll be a useful session. But without further ado, let's get into this one now. I have had a number of conversations with people who have been attending these webinars and had some emails and LinkedIn messages that it's, had some really positive feedback, which has been fantastic. But what I wanted to offer was, a bit of a 30-minute health check around AI. If anybody wants to have a conversation, I know it is a minefield. There's a lot of information, not just that I'm talking about on these sessions, but also out there. And I think, my feel is that people don't really know where to start. And because they don't know where to start, there's just a lot of inaction. So if anybody would like to have a conversation with me, and we can dive into perhaps some of the areas of your own business and your existing technology and your appetite for AI, I'm more than happy to have that conversation with you. So my email address is on the screen there. You can find me on LinkedIn. Just drop me a message and I'd be happy to help if I can. Okay, so streamlining operations. Let's start with ChatGPT and forecasting. These are the other topics we're going to run through. There's quite a bit to cover, but hopefully this will cover off some of the areas which we naturally didn't discuss as part of the front office and the candidate experience. So when I was looking at forecasting tools for the conversation for today, and I've looked at them in the past, you tend to get pointed towards your CRM and what your CRM has to offer. And that's not always the answer for everybody. If you've got a good comprehensive CRM and it does your forecasting, fantastic. If you've got a really good ERP and it does your forecasting, fantastic. But not everybody's in that place, and there isn't actually that many AI or technology options specifically for forecasting for recruitment businesses. So a bit of a business idea there for someone if they wanted to run a tech company around forecasting for recruiters. But I thought, okay, well, what are the options? And it was kind of staring me right in the face that ChatGPT is a really good place to start. And this is really just to give you a bit of a head start around your forecasting. The first one is its ability to summarize data. So you can upload structured data. So essentially reports that you have that can, we'd usually look at your CRM, pull that out. It could be placements, time to fill, performance across your consultants, etc. It can then give you a summary of what it's reading within the document. So if you've ever done that before and you've thought, okay, let's summarize this CV, summarize this contract, think, okay, well, why don't we summarize our own reports? And some of you may be doing that, fantastic. But for those of you who haven't, then just a few hints and tips over the next few slides for this. So first off, it'll help you summarize. It can also give you some narrative behind it. So naturally, if you're wanting to get reports out and you want some summarization, you probably want to put some narrative together for a board pack or a meeting that you're having. ChatGPT is very good for that. It doesn't just have to be used for emails. Okay, it doesn't just have to be there for summarizing an external document. Get it for your forecasting as well. So if you're sitting down monthly to look at things, if you're sitting down looking at performance of a particular consultant, also if you're wanting to pick up any risk indicators, gaps in your pipeline, lack of activity, etc. ChatGPT is a really good place to start for that. Next area are scenarios. So you can throw what if scenarios at ChatGPT. So again, just think about how you would use it in your own personal life or alongside work, but with a forecasting cap on. So example here is, if we increase our sourcing by 30% and maintain 10% of the conversion rate, how many placements can we expect within a certain quarter? Okay. And it is pretty good at giving you some very accurate information back. So think about your scenarios for the forecasting, your what ifs, rather than trying to, go off gut feel or ask around the office. Just get ChatGPT to do the heavy lifting for you. And then let's have a little think about how we can do that. So for those of you who haven't done this before, you can upload documents into the AI tool. And it could be a CSV, it could be different forecasts that you've ran previously, metrics for your consultants. You're probably going to be looking mainly at your CRM and your finance platforms for this data. You may need to amalgamate that. That's absolutely fine. But you essentially just add the document into the chat box, and then you can use some custom ChatGPT instructions. Now, this isn't a lesson on ChatGPT. We could be here all day for that, but there's an example there on screen about a particular scenario that you want it to go away and look at. But you can also put prompts in the background as well, either so that it's on a regular basis. So you're always wanting ChatGPT to be doing your forecasting for this particular quarter. You don't want to keep putting your prompts in. You just put that in the background, and it's something that we looked at last week. But estimate next month's revenue, which consultants are trending below average. So you might know this, and quite often the gut feel will be fantastic, but your ChatGPT can really help you with the data and just help you along in being that bit more comprehensive in how you're collecting, reviewing, and explaining your data. But there are some limitations. Okay, so it's not going to do full on advanced predictive modeling. Tools with like an advanced database like Salesforce, which I work with, or Power BI, they're really going to be able to take that to the next level. ChatGPT has some limitations, as you may expect in that area. It's not designed specifically for forecasting, but it can be used for it. It's also off the shelf, not going to access your database live. So you are going to, and everyone talks about not doing it, but you can you would have to draw your data down from your CRM, usually Excel, CSV, and upload it into ChatGPT. Now, there are options to link ChatGPT through APIs, but if that's a step too far for some of you, then just look to do it in a bit of a manual process. Fortunately, with forecasting, I know this, you don't have to be doing it necessarily on an hour by hour basis. So it isn't going to be too much of a manual process to draw the data down from the source and throw it into AI. It can also doesn't guarantee the statistical accuracy. Okay, so that's a bit of a get out of jail free card for ChatGPT, but it's looking more trends. Yes, it's very good at analyzing data, but it's not a statistical number crunching tool. Yes, there are tools out there, but not really many forecasting tools for recruiters in the market. Okay, so hopefully that was helpful there. What else have we got? Yes, so I don't know if my screen's lagging a little bit here, so I'm just going to kill the video if so. So the next area that I wanted to discuss was really the outreach tools. Okay, oops, let's go back there. Okay, some of this was covered in the front office conversation, but what I deliberately tried to do was be very selective and pointy with the outreach tools, or sorry, with the particular problem that recruitment companies were trying to fix. So rather than me saying, okay, blanket message, just invest in something like an Apollo, that'll fix the majority of your front office outreach issues, I try to be quite specific. So the reason why this has been discussed in the operational section is because it covers an awful lot of the bases in one. Okay, again, I've tried to break that down into recommendations for small, medium, and larger companies, and that's the trend over the next few slides for the different areas that we're going to be discussing. So the first one is Instantly. So this is a cost-effective tool. It's got a really simple user interface, and it does do cold outreach, which can be personalized with AI. So it's not going to break the bank. It's quick to implement. Instantly is a good place to start if you're running quite a small agency. Lead Onion has been mentioned before. You know, we use this internally. It's a great tool. It does have a few more bells and whistles than some of the others, but that's using AI, and it's fantastic for drawing down on data, looking at intent signals, building campaigns, firing those out, analyzing the interaction, and then reacting accordingly from there. And then we have Apollo as the third option, which is a great tool for those larger organizations. I mean, their entry level isn't that costly, so that can be used for your small and medium-sized businesses. But the good thing with Apollo is that they have a huge database that you can tap into. Then once you've drawn the data down, like Lead Onion, you can then build your relevant campaigns from there. Okay, so are there tools out there which are just relevant for data? Yes. Are there tools out there which are relevant for intent and relevant for cadences and emails? Yes, there are. If you want to bring all of those steps under the one roof, which a lot of people do, then I would recommend looking at an outreach tool rather than having your data segmented across 3 to 4 different offerings. Okay. Next one is employer onboarding and learning. So we discussed last week about the candidate experience and onboarding, but what about your own employees as well? So there's a number of options here which you can really get to grips with in an effective way with AI. Some of you may already be using this as part of your HR software and onboarding tool. I know that when I've joined different companies in the past, they're using a fantastic, very expensive HR solution, but their onboarding is not fantastic, to say the least. So, you know, we've all experienced it, but there's a lot of good tools out there for bringing your own staff on and bringing them up to speed with your own processes and how to work within your own culture. So the top one is ChatGPT. So again, you know, if you're going to be using it, we recommended that you would be using the paid version, because any data that goes into the paid version is going to be GDPR compliant. Anything which, if you're using a free version, you're putting data in, it's not GDPR compliant, so you could be at risk there. But with ChatGPT, you can upload your documents, your different procedures, your different processes, how to use the CRM, how to log an expense, what the holiday rules are, and then your employees can simply type in a prompt into ChatGPT and it'll give them the answer there. So that's a really good entry-level tool for onboarding and learning, which is not going to break the bank. Okay. The next one is Trainial. So this has an AI assistant built into it. It does have interactive training modules and the likes of quizzes, videos. So it takes ChatGPT to that next level, but it's been designed specifically for employee onboarding. So if you do need to have a bit more of a structured process for that, it's a good place to start. And then for Sana, that's more for those larger organizations, so your global staffing firms. But you can centralize again everything in the one place. You can also have learning progress. So if you want to put different L&D learning paths in place, Sana will support you on that front. Okay, so really just three options there to get you up and running. ChatGPT is not a bad place to start, but it depends what your employees have been used to. If you want to find a dedicated tool which is being designed from the ground up with that in mind, it's probably worth investing in them if your HCM isn't doing a fantastic job right now. Okay, so next we shall have a look at market research. You could argue that this might fall into the front office portion of the of AI, but I think what what we see here at TargetRecruit is a lot of companies who want to do market research. It tends to be a bit more of a sales operation activity rather than something that you want to put onto your consultants. But in regards to market research and looking at trends, there's three recommendations here. So it's great for conversations that you're having with your clients if you want to be proactive and put different market trends and packs together for reporting purposes to really stand out from the competition. Then these are just three options here. So Crayon's a good place to start. It'll look at different competitor activity. So if you want to see what your closest competitor's up to, it's not a bad place to start. And again, it won't break the bank. You don't need internal research analysis to be able to use that tool. You don't need a sales ops person for using Crayon. So it's a good entry-level solution. And then we've got Stravito. Okay, so AI driven, so it's going to give you those insight, and it also organizes the data into a very consumable way. So if you want to bring the data and then play that back to clients, Stravito's a good place to start. Next one is Delphi or Marketplace, but they have an AI assistant called Delphi, which would be all under the one roof. This is again more for the enterprise insight and research. So, but if that's really important to you, and there's you're working perhaps in that contract exec space or high value perm, it could be a good way of standing out. I would recommend that you think, okay, how important is your market research? How much would your clients consume it, and how much would it resonate? Because there's a lot of recruitment companies out there who don't necessarily lead with the market research. So are they seen as that expert in the market? You could argue not. But market research with Crayon, Stravito, and Market Logic with Delphi are three options that you can have a look at. Next one is integration. So I know this is a question that Anna had last week, and it's a very valid one. It's one that we'll discuss in some depth next week when we're looking at where to get started. But it's all well and good looking at all these AI tools, but what's about actually bringing them all together? It's not just hard enough managing the subscription, the relationship with each of these different suppliers, but how do we make them talk to one another? And there's three options on screen there: Zapier, Make, and Tray, which can help bring everything under the one roof. When I first started in tech sales 20 plus years ago, people wanted one size to fit all. Okay, they wanted they weren't even bothered about best of breed. They just wanted everything under the one roof. And if certain parts and processes of the technology weren't fantastic, it was better than having technology in silo, because 20 odd years ago, integrating everything was essentially a CSV import and export. Yeah, you could automate it, but it wasn't fantastic. Things are an awful lot better now, and there's specific suppliers in the market whose their job is to integrate technology, and three of those are on screen here. So I mean, Zapier is good for beginners, for simple automation. So let's imagine that you've got a new Calendly meeting comes in, you want to add that contact perhaps from your website, or somebody who's booked it through your email signature. You want to add that contact into your CRM and then send an intro email through Gmail or Outlook. That's exactly what Zapier can do. So it's linking up three lots of technology there without you having to jump in and do manual intervention. Makes another one. So it is flexible. It's got visual automation, so you can see how all of that has been knitted together. And I believe the diagram to the left there is, I think that's a Make diagram. So an example is a candidate passes a screening test, which you could use with AI. It then sends a custom document to the consultant, but it doesn't actually send it to the consultant. It sends it to a Google Drive with a notification to the consultant that's been done. Excuse me, with a call summary of how the AI screening had went, and then that updates the job status within your CRM. Okay, so all of this is possible. Okay, I don't want to scare people off, but if you're thinking about certain technology which is looking attractive for your organization, and I think that's going to be the way. I'd say that's going to be the way that a lot of organizations go. They're going to have point solutions which fix specific problems. You're going to want to have. You're going to want to knit everything together. Again, we'll discuss it more next week's session. But I just wanted to explain a few examples of how that's possible, and then Trey's the final one. So this is for larger organizations who perhaps have more of a complex workflow processes that they need to accommodate. Okay, so this is where you can put data into multiple CRMs. You know, and I know firsthand that some of those larger firms are using different CRMs. If you need to use different custom APIs and also then feed across different brands and reporting, Trey's good for that. Okay, so it's not to say that Zapier and Make can't do it, but Trey's the above on steroids. So that's really a little bit about what the integration capabilities are. So please be rest assured that you can integrate a lot of your different API tools together. Sorry, you can knit a lot of your AI tools together without them all living in silo. So if that is a real concern, then yes, we'll cover it next week and also happy to have a chat offline. Next one is data cleanse. So there's always when we're discussing AI, there's always, well, not always, there tends to be three main topics which come up. And in no particular order: AI, automation, and data. And people ask, well, which one should I be looking at first? Okay, I'm in two camps. I still think you can use AI even if your data internally is a bit of a dog's dinner, because there's a lot of AI tools which look outside of your internal data. So it could be interview scheduling, it could be Calendly, it could be AI screening for candidates, it could be a chatbot for candidates applying through your website. That's not necessarily looking at internal data. So I wouldn't let it put you off, but you want to tidy your data up. Then you want to look at what you want to automate. Then you want to see which AI can help you with the automation to deliver those different processes. Okay. So where would you start with data cleansing? So deduplicate at the top there is a good place to start. As the name suggests, it'll do duplication of historical data, but also data on the fly. So if your CRM is not very good for detecting duplicates and it's not going to give users warnings, or users can override that, then deduplicate is a good tool for bringing everything, or to bring your duplication in control and merge records together. Lead Onion, again, we use this. So this is a good tool if you want to cleanse your database of not just duplicates, but also accurate, up-to-date information. So if you have a list of candidates and you suspect they've changed jobs, you've got a list of individuals or clients and you don't know how accurate it is, Lead Onion's good, and it's a fairly straightforward process where you draw the data down, you upload it into their tool, they'll go away and do a bit of a vet and checking on your data and come back with a clean list. And then Clay, we mentioned it just before, but Clay is very good as well at going away and keeping your data up to date. It'll import data from, or you can import data from the likes of CSV, LinkedIn, websites. It'll dedupe, it'll enrich, and it'll clean your data like Lead Onion. So a couple of options there. You do perhaps need a bit of technical knowledge when using Clay. It's not as easy perhaps as Lead Onion, where you can draw it down from your CRM and upload it and it'll do the cleanse from there. But it's worth looking at both or all three, depending on where your main problems are. If it's duplications, or if it's just data that you want to cleanse. I think we are running out of time, so I won't necessarily go into loads of these for detail, but these were workflow tools. So, maybe when I first started having this conversation with you all a number of weeks ago, I was assuming that workflows just really get handled by your CRM. But then I thought, okay, well, there's a lot of people I have conversations with who are using a CRM and the workflows just don't work. So there are AI workflow tools which can sit on top of your technology and help you automate those processes. There's a few of these that we have looked at. including ChatGPT, Hire Easy, Clay, Paradox. So just in the interest of time, I won't necessarily go into these in a lot of detail. Saucy at the top, so this is good for candidate engagement and workflow automation. Paradox is fantastic for the AI agent conversation with candidates. Hire Easy, this is going to automate your sourcing processing and it'll rank your candidates. We've got Clay, which is good for your data and for the workflows, and then ChatGPT. I think we've covered that in a bit of detail on the previous slides. What else have we got here? So I thought, okay, let's throw some left field ones in here, which perhaps don't necessarily, but do they come under operations? Yes, they do. That's why I've included it. But ones which you might not naturally be part of a conversation about recruitment process, but Vic.ai is one example. There's a number of solutions out there which do a similar job, but this is good for invoice matching and accounts payable automation. So it can send out your invoices, and then when you receive invoices, it can then match it up between the invoice which has been sent out, and it can see whether it's coming from a credible source. It'll match up the amounts. It can then send it off for review and authorization and get that paid. So rather than you doing that all over email or printing things off and throwing it across the office, tools like that can really help you make sure that you're compliant and it's quicker to pay your suppliers. Affinda is one example of data document processing. So we all know about CV parsing, but are there other documents that you may want to parse and get logged into your technology? So it could be rate cards that you need to be updating a timesheet solution with. It could be passports. It could be certain documentation that you needed to draw the data out of and populate candidate records. So Affinda's good at looking at particular documents, pulling the information out, and then populating third-party tools from there. And Verimark is a tool for background checks. So for those of you who need to be running background checks on the behalf of your clients or for candidates on an ongoing basis, it can use some AI enhanced functionality to take away a lot of the heavy lifting on that front. So we are coming up to past, and I have covered that just in time. These are the subjects that we have covered. Okay. I hope you found that useful. So ChatGPT for forecasting, your outreach and cadence tools, onboarding and learning for your own employees. Don't forget about them. Market research, particularly useful for clients and building up that relationship. Integration to be knitting all of our tech together. Cleansing and deduplicating your data before you actually get up and run with AI. Workflow tools for automation. And then some other suggestions which you may not have considered. Next week, we're going to be looking at where to get started. So practical steps about what to do to get started with AI. And then as a final reminder, if you do want to get in touch and have a conversation around AI by way of a 30-minute health check, I am more than happy to have that conversation with you. So please do reach out. Lorraine, were there any questions?
Thank you, Neil. No, there's no questions. If anybody has any questions, feel free to pop them into the chat or the Q&A. We'll just give it maybe a minute to see if there's any questions, Neil.
Okay.
And as I said earlier on, guys, if anybody has missed session 1 and session 2, pop me an email. I am lorraine@erfireland.com, and I can send you on the links. They're also on our YouTube channel, so you will see them there. And for our members, they're on our members lounge. But if there's anybody who wants me to send a link for handiness, that's no bother. Just let me know. I don't think there's any questions coming in.
Okay.
Explained everything so well. There's no questions. So I think we'll finish up there. Once again, thank you so much, Neil Curry, Sales Director for UK and EMEA for TargetRecruit. And thank you so much for all the attendees.
Yes, Amanda, yes, there is a chance of the slides. I just need to get those branded up and I'll fire them across to you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Amanda. And thanks, everybody else. Have a great day.
Cheers all.
Bye-bye. Take care.